What is up, guys? What's going on? Welcome to this edition of Butchers Block and Patriots Talk, and we are going to be talking some hockey. And I brought a special guest along with me, Jake the Snake Silva from Snake Sports Talk Show. What up, Jake?
What's going on, my man? How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. I am good. I tell you, man, the first round was really interesting in the playoffs. The second round, I think it's only going to get better, man. It's definitely only going to get better. There's been a couple of surprises. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. Philly, the Flyers was a surprise. The Islanders, the way they've been playing, that's been a huge surprise. And you know what's it's funny because they're in similar situations with those two. You don't really have a spectacular standout on either one of those teams. You know, a big name that everybody recognizes, but man, do they play well. They play well together. The team, they play team hockey really good, and that's what's got them to where they're at, man. I mean, I don't know what you think about the second round coming up, but I look forward to a lot of these matchups.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, especially with the previews that we ended up getting with the exhibition games, the round robin games, and then not to mention the qualifiers. I mean, the qualifiers, to be honest, with getting into the Stanley Cup playoffs for one, I thought was something that was a huge testament to a lot of teams. And I've called this already. I knew Toronto was going to come into a big time roadblock. They get knocked off. I knew Edmonton was going to get upset by Chicago. And I told my colleague about this. I said, because Chicago needed the energy and they needed that vibe to getting back into playoff mode. Because remember, Chicago regular season team is far different than what we see Chicago in the playoff. Yeah. Because there are two guys you got to shut down. That's Jonathan Taves and that is Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm. And if you have a fast, shifty defense, you can just skate circles around him and they can't do it. It's funny because the Blackhawks were a force 6 years ago. Yes, they were a force. And it's been kind of a gradual, downstep, but they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and the change of that is because, Chicago they're leaning on old expired contracts. And most of those guys that they have is, I'll say, Corey Crawford and, of course, Duncan Keith. I mean, they got to move on from these guys. There's no way that they can constantly, they can definitely move forward and rebuild this roster. I mentioned two players that I think they can revolve around once after the era between Taves and Kane is done, because you're only going to get 3-4 more years out of those two before it's time to go. But the two I mentioned is Alex DeBrincat and Dylan Strome. Those are two real good young forwards that I could see potential in Chicago really shifting themselves up to going into a positive direction. But this is where I was surprised during the trade deadline that Chicago was willing to give up Robin Lehner versus giving up Corey Crawford. Because you look at Lehner and how he played the year before with the New York Islanders. I mean, he was a complete surprise with the tandems between him and Thomas Greiss, and where New York, as you mentioned, still in the playoffs and playing very defensively, but with a different goaltender in Semyon Varlamov. But for Lehner, for as young as he still is and getting some experiences in the playoffs, he's really looked good. I loved watching him up in Vegas. I know that there's a lot of talks, and we'll definitely get into that too in the show. But
he grew up a lot in Vegas.
Yeah, he definitely grew a lot. But this is the thing, and I tell people all the time, Vegas is literally a city of opportunity. It really, really is. And the way you have to think about it is you have to think of it from outside. Think outside the box. It ain't just about the strip scene. It's about everything that's around it. If you get your mind into that process, you're going to love it here. I mean, the residentials here are really good. I live in a good home. I got a good roof over my head, and I'm not even close to the strip. I'm only about maybe 15 minutes away from it, and right there to Allegiant Stadium, home of those haters over there. But you know what? I mean, it's exciting stuff here up in Vegas. But, when I looked at these qualifiers, I thought this was exciting. I thought it really tested some of these teams. With Edmonton, and you and I both agree that Edmonton is not strong enough for playoffs. Listen, I love Connor McDavid and I love Leon Draisaitl, but can't.
It's funny. It's funny you said it. Like, there's just certain teams that I don't know about you, but I knew going into this is an extenuating circumstances and just different times, and you literally had to go from doing nothing to like you had to crank it back. Like, some of these guys were going to be able to crank it back up and get their mind right and get their legs underneath them, and some of them weren't. Like Tuukka Rask, perfect example. He's never been known to be you know what I mean? Like, this is an extenuating circumstance, and this is a weird if you couldn't get your mind and body right underneath you, especially get your hockey legs underneath you, these guys probably did next to nothing while they were, while the current situation was going on. And you literally have to go from that to just cranking it back up and acting like it's the season again. And some of these guys who don't have that mentality, just like a lot of those Edmonton guys, whether it's age or just immaturity, you saw it. They played bad hockey. They played just bad hockey.
And I made the best point on my show as well a couple weekends ago. But I made the best point that, and I summed it all up because Edmonton and Toronto, this is where they're very alike. Edmonton, here's where I'll break it down this way. They are the LA Angels of Anaheim in hockey. Yeah. They seriously are. Because
perfect comparison.
Yeah, because you have Connor McDavid and you've got Mike Trout, who are arguably the best players in both their sports, respectfully. Mm-hmm. And then they've also got their second punch, which, I mean, look, you got Anthony Rendon and the Angels, and then you got Leon Draisaitl for Edmonton. But who else outside of that do you really have? And here's the other part. They love offense. I mean, the Angels from top to bottom, they love their offense. They love to just get everybody stacked in a lineup. And the same way when it comes to Edmonton, they love speed, they love offense, they love all that. But what is the one thing they have in common that they struggle with? Pitching. There's no defense. There's no defense behind him. Nothing. No defense behind him. And regardless, even if they acquired a guy like Mike Green from Detroit, it still wasn't enough for them to really get things going. And here's the other thing, and I got the perfect nickname for this one. But
how many times have you seen Edmonton just leave people hanging out to dry, or just throw a bad pass through the neutral zone
every time?
And dude, I've seen it like at least 24 times where they throw a terrible pass through the neutral zone, and a winger steps in front of it, and it's a breakaway.
Yeah, it's an easy breakaway, and then everybody is shifting from instead of playing defensive on their own zone, they're all shifted over to neutral ice, and then it's already a little too late because the forward already intercepts the puck and he's ready to go just solo and score the goal. He's
already got two strides on whoever is going to be trying to chase him down, and there's nowhere near enough time.
Exactly. And, and perfect example. I mean, when you look at Vegas and how they've been able to take advantage of that, I mean, I loved watching Chandler Stevenson. I think he was the most disruptive presence when it came to taking advantage of bad passes. And he's a fast skater too. I mean, that was one that I think caught up with the defense, caught up with the offense as well. When mistakes are made, he's going to take advantage of it and score a goal, and it's just going to bite you hard. And so this is where, like with Edmonton, and much like the Angels, they only made the playoffs one time with Mike Trout. 2014, they win a pennant. Since then, there hasn't been any more pennant championships. There hasn't even been any American League pennants, let alone a World Series. Why? Because the problem of it is that pitching staff. And the pitching staff last year, if you haven't learned, recorded a 5.56 ERA.
Yeah, and it was way up there.
Exactly. And to the point when it compares to goaltending for Edmonton, look, I like Mikko Koskinen, but he is not an elite goaltender. I came up with the nickname because sometimes Koskinen will either be on or he'll have the quote-unquote, I call him Mikko cost you some. Okay, because he is going to cost you some pucks, and he's going to cost you a lot of games. And that's where I think he really has to learn that. He is still a young goaltender. He still has a lot to learn in this league. But then you look at Mike Smith. Good God. Mike Smith just looked absolutely horrible in that first game against Chicago. And they just took advantage of him left and right. And that's where, Edmonton, much like the Angels, you can have all the offense that you want. But if you're not figuring out the real problems to be a true threat in the playoffs, you're going to lose. Yeah, and the Angels knew that the hard way. They get swept by Kansas City, and then here comes Chicago, and they upset Edmonton. And by the way, thank you so much for holding the playoffs and your home ice when you don't even have home ice advantage. So, and the same that I go for Toronto. Toronto, you went forwards deep this year. You paid all of your forwards top dollars, and it's going to bite you in the ass horribly.
Because they got nothing on the back end. You see how slow they are?
On the back end, yeah.
You see how slow they are on the back end?
And Frederik Andersen is not your savior. He is not your savior at goaltender. And that's the problem. This is what the point is. During the trade deadline, the one player I wish they would have pursued was Jonathan Quick. I'm not kidding. They should have pursued Jonathan Quick because the last 2 seasons, he has not looked the same in LA. And LA needs a change. They've already got Cal Peterson, and they've already got another young goaltender that they're trying to bring up. And this is one that they really have to push for youth movement because, listen, LA fans, the 12-14 season's over. We're in 2020. Okay, the Kings have not looked the same way. And I'm telling you, I got bashed on this multiple times, whether I was in T-Mobile Arena when they were playing the Kings or, elsewhere. It's not the same group. You got to move on from some of these guys. And I think Toronto should have pursued Jonathan Quick, and I think that could have solved their problem for how slow that offense was.
You know what's funny with Toronto, right? It's when they get into the playoffs and when you crank the pressure up on them, it's rinse, wash, repeat. How many times have we seen them do this now in the playoffs? As soon as you ratchet the pressure up on them, it's like they lose their mind and they lose who they are as a team. They're a big, physical, punch you in the mouth and beat you down and wear you down kind of team. And it seems like yes, he is. Elias Reynolds. Yes, he is. He is a Golden Knights fan. He is.
You can definitely tell by all the gear.
But but you know what I mean? How many times have we seen that out of them? And there's just certain teams that they're regular season teams and they just can't seem to ratchet it up, whether that's, lack of veteran presence or just
and sometimes
maybe they just don't. The NHL playoffs, the playoffs in the National Hockey League are a different animal than the regular season. It's
oh yeah.
I mean, the intensity goes from here to here, and it's overnight. Once you start the playoffs, every game, you lose 2 in a row, and that's a massive momentum swing.
Oh, big time. And, and this is the thing, the Stanley Cup playoffs, this is what separates the boys from the men because it is a completely different atmosphere. And I say this to every single, playoff mode type in every sport. When you come into postseason baseball, okay, it's different than regular season because in regular season, everybody's trying to push for stats. Everybody's trying to push for home runs, and they're all trying to push for this. They
all want their signing. They all want their bonuses. They all want their bonuses.
They all want their bonuses. And then the same with the NBA. NBA is very star driven, and they love their statistics. They love all of this, and so. But when it comes to playoffs and when it comes to postseason, it's a completely different game, different atmosphere, pressure's on your shoulders, a lot is on the line, and you have to be 110% all the way around. That's why when we look at the second round of the NHL playoffs, this is the most exciting second round than we've ever seen in I don't know, like what, in years? Like
dude, there's a lot of like, to me, I like that underdog factor. I want to see the Flyers do, like, I want to see them keep going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What if we got a Bruins Flyers Eastern Conference? You know the rivalry there.
Oh, that would be an exciting East Coast matchup right there. I mean, with Boston and Philadelphia. I mean, now I know a lot of people talk about, the Battle of Penn between, Philly and Pittsburgh. And, we watch the classic games from there. But, when you
Boston and the Flyers have a rivalry that goes back,
way
man.
Beyond, yeah.
We don't like each other. The Flyers and the Bruins do not like one another.
And what's funny is each and every single one of these teams have shown an awful lot of physical presence, and going into Elias's comment there, how about that 5-0 win? Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a great win last
Vegas
night.
They look stupid locked in.
Yeah, they're on a mission. They are on a mission. They have, like, I'm telling you.
You know what it is? You know what it is, Jake? You get that taste. They got that taste of it. They got that taste of it.
They got the taste of the Stanley Cup. But here's the other thing, too. They have finally found their identity. That was the one thing where I've told people the first year when they made it to the Stanley Cup, everybody asked me the similar question. Do you think, they could have won it? Was that the season? And I said, you know what? Year one was a complete fluke. I say that respectfully because, first of all, what was the battle cry for Vegas? Vegas strong. They were leaning on that all throughout the season, and that's what took them. It took the NHL by storm.
The city and the fans breathed like they breathe. You could tell they breathed life like into that. Like there was after that, like, they rode that momentum, and that city fueled that team through that run. It was
absolutely. And for a city that never really like, here's the thing. We had a couple of hockey teams. We had the Las Vegas Wranglers at one point, and then, years before that, we had the Las Vegas Thunder. Those were the only historical hockey moments we really had in the city of Las Vegas. And then until it gets professional to where we finally have a professional team in our town, not a lot of people were very educated in hockey. And then the second, this tragedy comes through, and then all these players from Vegas now come to help a community to strengthen and unite everybody together. Everybody now started pushing to wanting to come to watch these games. And I'm telling you, I've been to 13 Golden Knights games. The energy, the vibe, just the culture inside.
Dude, they have the best they have the best open. I want to go to a Knights game just so I can sit there and watch the open.
I'm telling you, dude, it is going to be the best. Like, hey, we'll save the best seat for sure. Boston against Vegas, man. Like, oh man, once you have who has a better opening than coming out to John Wick mode? And
yeah.
You know what the vibe on the ice is going to be, And so,
no, I'll tell you this. You know who I give a lot of credit for? Not only the players, but the Vegas front office.
Yes.
Putting the team together, dude, they have done a phenomenal job of putting players that not only with finding talent, because when you have an expansion team, like, you're not going to get the best of the, you know what I mean? You're not going to get like the best of the best. Right. So the front office has done phenomenal when it comes to like putting together talent that works well together. Like credit the front office for that, man. The upper management has done phenomenal.
Absolutely. And this is the thing though, and this is what people have to understand, and especially when it comes to Vegas fans, is that the whole push that this front office has been getting. Bill Foley has a goal. He wants to get the Cup in 3, playoffs in 5, in the 5 years. He's got that goal. That is exactly what Vegas is trying to reach. And nobody better that they hired the first year other than former Washington Capitals general manager George McPhee. I mean, think about it. George McPhee was the reason why Alex Ovechkin was as great as he was. And then he ended up building a lot of those talents, like guys like Nicholas Backstrom.
Yeah.
Like Nate
I was
Schmidt.
going to say, didn't he develop Backstrom?
He developed Backstrom. Then comes in Evgeny Kuznetsov. He built this team exactly to where they were. They were just missing the link.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Barry Trotz was a terrible head coach. I mean, you're already looking at Barry Trotz right now in New York and how defensive that team is. I mean, you're looking at Matt Barzal, one of the best passers, I would say, arguably in hockey. And then you've got Jordan Eberle, who's one of their clutch guys, Brock Nelson on the defense. And how about Anthony Bolvieri? I mean, my God, that guy is on fire right now for the offense. And so the Islanders really are generating themselves well. But for George McPhee, he knows how to start from scratch. Find talent exactly with where talent is around. And he puts this all together beautifully. If these guys mesh and these guys really connect with each other. And this is the funny thing. Nate Schmidt and Fleury, they didn't like each other as much. And the only reason why is
it took them a while to like. Yeah, no, there was a definite little rift there for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a rift because listen, Pittsburgh had always been Washington's kryptonite. They've always been their kryptonite for like 4 straight years until finally
they were able to crack them. Yeah.
As they said on the commentary, the demons had been exorcised and they finally ended up beating them. And that was the year that the second they got past Pittsburgh, Ovechkin knew we're winning this fucking thing.
As soon as they exercise that demon from the past.
Yes.
They rode that momentum right to the cup.
Right. And for Vegas, I mean, like I said, they rode on, the battle cry of Vegas Strong all throughout the whole first season. And granted, like they got a taste of it in that first win. And that was the one that I was excited for because they get the first win in the Stanley Cup final. That set the tone. Now, of course, you knew this was going to be Ovechkin's moment because him getting the taste of the cup, him wanting to win it so bad, I was happy for him. I gave him all the best because of it.
And I was happy to see Ovi finally get one. He's one of the best hockey players in the last 15 years.
That was the icing on the cake to get him into the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer either way, but that is the icing on the cake that made it sweeter. And so
I just like him because he's out of his mind. He is absolutely batshit crazy, and I absolutely love it.
Like, here's what's funny. I mean, you look at he's honestly the Barry Bonds of hockey. I mean, the guy scores massively. And nobody that I could think of who scores 50 plus goals every single year other than Ovechkin. And he's a guy that hardest shooter out of Russia.
He's an absolute sniper too from anywhere.
Yeah, and you cannot block that puck from coming at you. I mean, that thing's going to wear you, and you're going to end up getting bruises. You're going to get red marks all over it, and you know what I mean? And so, but if you saw in some of the small clips, I think years ago when they showed him target practice, I mean, did you see how he cracked all those dolls' heads?
Yeah.
Like, oh, my God. It was amazing.
It's just he's a different kind of player. He's good.
But for going on for Vegas into the second year is that even though they got the taste of it, the problem of it was now what's the next? What is the identity now? Because year one was year one. That's in the past. Everybody cannot ride on that, and everybody reminding them, well, year one and all that. They cannot ride on that. And that was one where they said, we need a new identity. We need to figure out exactly who we are as a team. And I was very excited once they got Max Pacioretty and Paul Stastny, but they were slow on offense. Power plays were horrible. They weren't generating well on offenses. And when it came to defense, everybody was playing their tails off. Like, for instance, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, he was the only reason that really kept the defense alive because the fact that he can play both forward and defense at the same time. He was Fleury's right-hand man when it came to defend at all costs, and I'll do the rest. So by the second year, that's when they started to trade and get Mark Stone. The second they got it, The offense started firing up. Now, it was unfortunate losing to San Jose in that just horrific call of a major penalty. Yeah, and we all remember that very.
Oh, dude, that was such a horrid call.
It was such a hard call because it was just like, Pavelski, I mean, again, I give him credit. I mean, Pavelski was very much the leader for San Jose, but the way that just everything was rode was one that was not, was not the one that I would have expected. But coming into year 3, this was the youth movement now. This is where Nick Waugh, Cody Glass, and Nick Hague, and a lot of these young guys, they needed a taste of the the NHL level. And that's where I knew Vegas needed to do that. Now, the unfortunate part is Cody Glass got hurt too much. And Nick Hague, he played good defense, but was still not ready to really be prepared for all the pressures and all of the high intensity game. So, but then the trade deadline comes up, and the biggest key was defense. I mentioned so many names up out there during the trade deadline, and I thought, and I'm actually kind of glad Philadelphia did not get rid of him. But I thought Shane Goatsberry, I thought Vegas would have been a perfect fit for him, because if you think about it, he's a real good puck generator.
That's true.
He's also
he would fit good on the third line.
On that third line, yeah,
he would fit good there.
Yeah,
because you could. I mean, technically you could put him on the second, but you know what? I would bump him down so you have that one guy on at least 3 out of those 4 lines that like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, Vegas, they've played good, man. For an expansion team.
And they've been riding this horse for the whole just first 3 years. And this is something that's exciting, and where they're a team on a mission. The other guy that I even pushed for during the trade deadline was Sami Vatanen, because passing was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at every single one of their generated passes. Everything was horrible on the defensive front ends, because you get Nate Schmidt, who is a good skater, but every time he pulls off defense, he comes in as an offensive forward. That scares the hell out of me. And I'm just like, if you get a puck generator like Vatanen, who I think is very good at generating passes and kickstarting the offense in the right direction, he could have easily fit in this. But the fact that they got Alec Martinez, once I seen how he plays defensively, he reminds me so much of how Belmar played last year. Is that he bodies up, he protects his goaltender at all costs, and makes sure no puck gets through. And that was one of the defenses Vegas needed desperately. But then they go in, then they come in.
They needed that presence in front of the net.
Exactly. That's what they were lacking. It wasn't Fleury. Like I tell people all the time, it's not Fleury's fault. It's not Fleury's fault that he's trying to go and defend the puck. And yes, we know he's getting up in age. But some of those plays, the defense has to be heads up. I can't constantly watch games every time where the defense is nowhere to be near with Fleury, and every time when a breakaway shot happens, what do you expect Fleury to do? He can't be Superman all the time. And so that was a real good pickup, getting Martinez. Nick Cousins, real good on the offensive end. I thought that was a bonus for me when it came to putting him in the third or the fourth line, to really generating the offense well and keeping, just the momentum on their side. But again, I made this point multiple times, and I got bashed for it. And this is very memorable. But that game against the Anaheim Ducks, where they win 6-5 in overtime with Malcolm Subban, and
is that the game where Fleury came out against the? Is that the game where he made the save and he was like 4 feet in front of the paint?
I think so. I think it was. But Subban got that start in that game, and everything looked like it was going well, and then things started falling apart. That wasn't until I tweeted saying, hey, I'll take the win, but don't be surprised if they go out and get a goaltender. And everyone bashed on me because of that.
Yeah.
They all bashed on me. And what happens the next day?
They go.
They got Robin Leonard.
Yeah.
But
see, that's smart though, because what if something ever happens to Fleury, you guys are screwed if you didn't have a solid.
Yeah, this is why that I've compared goaltending to baseball, because baseball, you need a strong rotation, but you also need a good bullpen.
And you know what that also gives you guys too? that means you don't have to play Fleury a lot in those games that if you're going into a game in the regular season and you know you got it in hand, let the kid, put the other guy between the pipes. You don't need to stress Fleury out,
Right.
let him rest. Let him take the night off.
Right, exactly. Give him some rest because listen, this year has been hard on a lot.
What do you think the Bruins did with Tuukka? Every time we played a cupcake, Halak was between the pipes.
Yeah, and Halak, to be honest, like Halak is really riding this train very well. I'm very impressed.
Dude, they took Tuukka Rask opting out and leaving personal. That team took it personal. Chara the other night dove in front of 3 pucks to block them. Like, guys are diving in front of pucks there. Chara pulled that puck out of the net. The other I'm telling you, dude, they took it personal. They're playing no as many pucks as they'll lay out. They lay out for pucks. Chara put his stick in there and took that puck out of that goal. Like, dude, I don't like to say it, but they're playing harder in front of Halak than they were for Tuukka. Sorry.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, listen, respectfully, I even said this because Boston had been going through a lot of stuff. I mean, first and foremost, I'm happy with the fact that David Pastrnak is at least playing because we know he had that injury.
Yeah.
And then having to come back, getting quarantined, coming back into the ice. But the other thing is 9 players, including Tuukka Rask and including a lot of these, these big name players, were not set to play.
Yeah, the mentality. They couldn't get their mind right. They couldn't get their mind back into the game.
Yeah, they couldn't even get their minds right. And so that was what was kind of hard for me to really speculate because, again, I don't brush away the fact that Boston does have a real good team. But respectfully, there's holes that I see sometimes.
Oh,
when it
dude,
comes to,
there is. And people aren't gonna like what I'm about to say, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Krug and McAvoy and DeBrusk are fast.
Yes,
fast defensemen.
Oh, I love
Quick.
Jake DeBrusk.
Chara, as much as I love Zdeno Chara. His style, it's old school hockey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But he's holding McAvoy back.
Yeah,
he's holding McAvoy back.
I agree. I mean, when you look at guys like
did
Torrey
he play?
Krug
Did he play really good against the Lightning? I think he messed up. He made 2 mistakes in that game, but he has, like, as he's aged, the guy, these fast wings can just skate circles around him because he's 42. He's 42 or 43 years old. He's just not as fast as he once was.
And he's,
you know what I mean?
A broken jaw. Like, what do you expect him to do? Like, he's already been through enough on his body at 42. Like, the second I'm glad I'm seeing him on the ice because I can't imagine taking a puck to the jaw, breaking it, and then you're still playing in the playoffs. Like, the
reports came out about that afterward. Dude, his jaw was broken like 4 places, and they wired it back together. And he's still, like, the dude he's going to go down as a Bruin legend. He's a badass. He's 7'1" on skates.
Oh, yeah.
7'1"
He's a guy that I just look up and I'm just like, okay. That's who's defending me.
And what's his Maroon tried to start with him last night, and I was like, bro,
Pat Maroon,
he's like, he threw a punch at him, and he literally had to throw it up to go after him. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing?
You might as well just leap in order to, actually get his face or however you're trying to do it. But
and I love it, but he's like, eventually it's going to get to a point where you're going to have to make a decision because it's like,
yes,
like Jake, the league is changing. The defensemen are getting faster and faster and faster and faster.
But here's what's funny about this is that, when we come to old school hockey, enforcers were such a big thing because you need to have somebody that was going to rattle somebody's cage. And, because it was it was the table shifting every time when it came to energy and momentum on both sides of the ice and who exactly was going to have the momentum. Because if one team got shook up, they were all going to fall down. But if the other team ended up winning those fights, getting the energy started, they were then going to come out on top and win those games. This is not the point now in the new style of hockey, because honestly, everybody can handle their own, to be honest. Like I watched last night's game against Vancouver. And the thing of it is because Vegas, it's not just Ryan Reeves being the enforcer. Everybody is being an enforcer. Marchessault played like an enforcer. Chandler Stevenson played like an enforcer. A lot of these
it's funny because, dude,
it.
some of these small wingers now are some of these smaller wingers are, dude, even they're like going like they'll put somebody into the, they're not afraid to, like, I mean, like before you'd kind of leave the hitting up to the defenseman.
Yeah, it's true.
Dude, these wingers are going after people.
Yeah, the wingers are going after him, and it's like you mentioned, using speed to your advantage. And the second that you don't see somebody coming at you, shouldering you up, I mean, that's going to be bad news on your end. And that's exactly what Vegas had been doing. And the only players who actually managed it through for Vancouver was Jake Virtanen, Elias Pettersson, and Rousseau. That was the only one. I watched Quinn Hughes as a rookie, and he is getting bashed everywhere.
Yeah.
You could see just how red his face was because of just he's getting hit left and right. But you know what? A rookie's got to learn somehow in order to hold his own ground. I mean, you're playing as a defenseman. You got to learn.
And once you get clocked like that, it's like, all right, I'm gonna do kind of what I need to do to avoid that from happening again.
Exactly, and you could see the frustration on Vancouver, especially on Tanner Pearson. The fact he breaks his stick.
I know.
Bench, like that's the frustration. But that's where they have to gain the momentum back. Because if you know Vegas is coming at you with physicality, you got to learn to establish and you got to learn how to acclimate yourselves into that same energy, because the second that you don't, you're going to get taken advantage of. You're probably going to end up getting swept because you're going to be pushed around, injury prone, possibly, if that ends up happening, and that's what's going to lose your momentum. And I said this over and over again. Jacob Markstrom is a workhorse. 11 straight starts and playing every minute, every second, every millisecond of every game. He is wore out. He is wore out, and that is the problem with Vancouver going into this game. Okay, you still won against St. Louis, but the second you play Vegas, who upgraded on all three components, they're coming at you with full force, and it's not going to be as easy as you thought it was against St. Louis. That's the big thing.
So let's jump into this, Jake. The final 8 have been set.
Yeah,
we know the final 8, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The Knights, the Canucks, the Avalanche, the Stars, the Bruins, the Lightning, the Flyers, and the Islanders.
Yeah.
So give me your
Shall we do like thought for thought on each of the series, just one by one?
That's what I'm going to get at. So let's do this first, right? Let's do this first.
All right.
Who's the underdog? Who's the underdog in all these, like, out of all 8? Who's got the outside shot? Who do you think's going to got the farthest shot?
I think the teams, like, I'll break it down from west to east. I think the Eastern Conference, when I look at underdogs, I'm going to honestly say, and I'm going to point your team out, I think the Boston Bruins are the underdogs. I truly do think that, because I say this respectfully, because looking at Philadelphia was not supposed to look as good as they do.
No.
And they are. Like, their offense with Sean Couturier, Jacob Bracek, a lot of these guys, they're playing really good hockey. And here's what's funny. This was the battle cry for St. Louis with Jordan Binnington. I feel like they're finding that too with Carter Hart. And this is kind of something that I don't know if you've seen, but I'm seeing this with those two and then Elvis Merzlikins in Columbus. But these young goaltenders, for whatever reason, they're coming into this league and they're just taking the league's big time by storm. And I don't know how it's happening. or how-
Bennington last year.
Yeah, Bennington last year. You have Carter Hart this year, and how, unfortunately they got knocked off. But Elvis Merzlikins in Columbus was another guy that was an interesting, talent. But
you know what's the thing with and here's the funny thing with youth, Jake, right? Especially like if they get hot, if those like Bennington rode a hot streak all the way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the way to the guy rode a hot streak to the finals. It's like, it's just if these guys get momentum underneath them and they get that fire, those young kids can carry that. You know what I mean? Like
they're playing with like ice in their veins. The fact that they're so focused, they're looking to block any shot at all costs. I mean, and that's what's interesting, and I don't even know how these goaltenders do it. But when I watch these goaltenders work out and how they just they stay agile, they stay athletic, and all, because you got to be that way. You're carrying that many pounds of padding. Yeah. Just to stop every single puck in sight, and you're jumping around. And so these young kids coming into here, they're getting acclimated to this high speed type of game, very fast. I'm surprised at that, because you could think of some guys that are very precise, because they look and they say, okay, he's going to shoot here. I know where to set myself up at, or he's going to shoot. They're very precise. That's not the case for some of these young kids. They're getting acclimated.
It's 100% reactionary with them.
Very much.
They react to what they're seeing on the ice. Yeah.
Right. And here's also too, like one of the comments Elias Reynolds said, the Capitals actually should have destroyed the Islanders. I'm going to be honest with you, Elias.
Dude, that should have not even been a series.
I'll be honest with you, Elias, but Braden Holtby has not looked like himself. He has not looked like himself. He had a horrible, like, something had to it. Maybe he got hurt going into that series. Yeah. Because he did not look good at all. And that was the part that I told a lot of these guys, like a lot of these people previewing, is because the only hope for the Capitals to really make it through is if Braden Holtby plays his position. If you get playoff Braden Holtby, the Capitals, they're fine, because they go and get a good defenseman, Brendan Dillon, out of San Jose, and I thought he was really, really good. But the fact that Braden Holtby was not carrying up his load, that's an issue that now the Capitals have to face for next season. But going back to the underdogs, but I think Boston's playing like underdogs in this one, because they're going through a lot. Pasternak's injury.
They were the one people forget. They were going to win the freaking President's Trophy before the season paused.
Yeah, they had high expectations of winning the President's Trophy, by the start of the season. But the fact that coming into this bubble after an interrupted situation, there was a lot of speculation with them.
They went 1-3 in the pregame in the games. It didn't matter. They went 1-3.
Yeah, 1-3, and that was one that was scary for me, because the fact that 9 players were not fit to play. Pasternak's injury, and then you come to a point where Tuukka Rask opts out. Now this team's actually playing like we have all the odds against us, like our backs are against the wall, but that's how we play. They play with their backs against the wall, and it's what gets guys going, like Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak,
Marchand, Bergeron, that vet core thrives on people telling them they can't.
Very much. And here's also another underdog that I'll also mention in the Western Conference, who, by the way, last year leaned on this, and that's the Dallas Stars. The fact
that's what I was gonna go with them. They were the ones that the Stars were the ones that I looked like. I looked at, like, I was following it, and I'm like, how are they still here? Like, look at the teams that are they're in there with.
Yeah.
Vegas, the one, we all know what they did their first year. The Bruins are a storied franchise. The Canucks, they're another, they're another, hockey town, like they're supposed to be there, you know what I mean? Right. Like, the Islanders and the Flyers are coming into their, like, they're, the history of those two teams once again speaks for itself. The Lightning are arguably, the arguably probably the best or one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the league. The Avalanche just have run, like they've been running people over.
Yeah.
It's like I look at the Stars and I go, what are you doing here? Like something like you do not belong.
Well, the thing of it is with the Dallas Stars and what they've kind of done right is because, of course, in 2018, that was one where like a lot of people speculated and thinking, what is going on with this Dallas team? Because like the Flyers, they were hot, they were cold, they were hot, and then they got cold at the worst time possible. And then they couldn't even play well again. But the second the CEO calls out Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, that was the battle cry. That was the one.
Isn't that when he isn't that when he told him you guys are playing like garbage and you need to pick it up?
Yeah, you're playing like garbage. And here's the thing. Tyler Seguin that year recently signed a 7-year deal. And it's like you're already making him bitter about signing that deal in the first place. And then you got Jamie Benn, who's been in the league for long enough as a captain. Now they fed on that, and the offense started scoring left and right with those two. Alex Radulov, and a lot of these guys.
They took it personal.
Yeah, they took it very, very personal, and that was what rode them to getting further into the playoffs. And that was one where I was like, I was not surprised. And can we just get a minute to appreciate the fact that Ben Bishop, the way he has been playing in the last 2 seasons, like he's actually. This is where I told people don't underestimate them. Because if you actually seen some of these games that Ben Bishop has been playing against competitive teams,
dude, I got one thing. How wrong were the Bruins to give up on Seguin so young? Like we
yeah, that was bad.
Because they did. They gave up on him young because he was immature. He's good. He's real good.
But think about it though. After that 2011 Stanley Cup championship, like. He could have been at least the future of that offense. But then again, if it didn't happen, imagine with the roster that Boston has right now. Could you imagine that if that did not happen?
Like Seguin on the second line.
Yep, Seguin on the second line. That could have been a very interesting and maybe a dangerous line, compared to the first line. I mean, but that's where Seguin, I think, needed a new fresh set of eyes. He needed a new change of scenery, and he found that in Dallas, where he's a big name for himself. And here's the other thing. The defense very much got better. John Klingberg's playing real good defense. Miro Heiskanen has been playing real good defense as a young kid, and that's where they've been feeding off that. And here's what I said this. San Jose, they regret letting Joe Pavelski leave.
Yeah. Oh, they regret it. Dude, there's no doubt. Looking at it now, Yeah.
I mean, I told people this, like, the second he leaves, and a lot of people were speculating and saying, well, Pete DeBoer is a horrible coach. I was like, no. That's not Pete DeBoer's fault. It's not Pete DeBoer's fault at all for what happened in San Jose. The reason is because I love watching Evander Kane being in the penalty box so much, but last year they led all the NHL in penalty minutes. That's not good. That is not a good resume to put on a season when your team's leading the league in penalty minutes. Yeah. And that's because there was no leader in the clubhouse. Yeah. And they lost that the second Pavelski left.
Yeah.
You can't lean on Brent Burns. I'm just telling you that right now. You can't lean on him. Joe Thornton's just getting too old for this. And neither are you.
You see, like
Patrick Marleau.
No, like Burns and Thornton, like, I don't want to say their heart's not in it, but it's just like, I just think they've reached that veteran part of their career.
Very much they have. And listen, I hope that, because Joe Thornton very much deserves a Stanley Cup. And I mean, if you took a cheaper price, he would have gone on to a team that had a lot of momentum to get on. I mean, look at Patrick Marleau. He wanted to get in so badly to the Stanley Cup and get a taste of it. And unfortunately for him, Pittsburgh, I've said this over and over and over again. Pittsburgh is feeling not having Fleury.
Yeah.
They're feeling it. Matt Murray.
Because talk about a resurgence.
Very much. I mean, oh God. SMIG. No, I'm not.
I
I got over it.
Are you still mad about the Sharks?
Because here's the thing. I know you're always going to be mad when Ryan Reeves checks, Evander Kane and says, "Hey, what's up, buddy? Let me give you a little noogie up.
Let me give you a little jab. There you go."
But that's the thing about it is like Dallas has been a very tough team defensively because when I look at goals against average on Ben Bishop's end and his save percentage, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And these are against competitive teams. It's crazy. So those are my two underdog teams: Boston Bruins, Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Look, Colorado's a really, really tough team, but here's the problem: they lean on their first line all the time. They lean on them all the time, and that's where
Colorado's. If you guys end up playing the Avalanche, I think the Knights defense is going to do a number on that first line, and I realistically think that you can't put the pressure on the back end of that Avalanche team.
Yeah,
because it's just going to cave.
But do you know who's going to be the kryptonite to the Vegas?
Who's that?
Pierre-Edouard Bellemare.
True.
I was there at that game when he scored the hat trick, and I was freaking pissed because I was just like, why do you got to do me like that? I was just like, I love you as a player, man, but damn it, you had to do it against your former team like this. And that
why
was
you
the
got to
part
do me
really
like that, man?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it really lit me up. The second when they scored like their 7th goal in the game and it was off of a guy's visor, I remember standing up out of the bleachers and we're getting ready to walk out, me and my pop and a good friend of mine. And all of a sudden we were like, is it Joe Pavelski 2.0? What the hell? Like you scored off of your visor? And so then of course you got a Colorado fan who's out there just, screaming, yelling, cheering, and we're like, shut up. We don't want to fight.
Shut up. You don't get to cheer.
That's what happens when you come into the Lions Den sometimes in all these arenas. Is like I give everybody on the road props, but still, like it's a crazy atmosphere the second you're in it. But this is going to be a great second round all the way around. If you notice, all these. So teams,
Jake, let's go from series to series. We got 4 left. We'll go from series to series, and I got a couple of questions for you about.
Sure.
So let's start with the Knights and the Canucks, since you're a Knights fan. So give me concerns. What do you think? So concerns with Vegas. So we'll go strengths and weaknesses. So what do you think the Nucks are going to like? What are your concerns with going up against the Canucks?
So my concerns for Vegas against the Canucks is like my biggest concern is, and I mean, you looked at the tweet. You looked at the tweet with Marc-Andre Fleury that was tweeted by his agent. And I seriously thought, again, if it were me in the front offices, I would have gotten the first phone call right to his agent and saying, what are you doing? Okay. Are you, like most people during a pandemic, are you worried about money right now? Are you worried about all of this? Because we're trying to win a championship. We've got all the pieces in place for us to win a championship, and you're already stirring up drama right now.
Yeah. What are you doing trying to negotiate a contract in the middle of a cup run?
Exactly. And here's the thing is Fleury's been in this position already with Pittsburgh. They did the same similar thing, but he did the
exact same thing. He tried to use leverage during a playoff to get him money.
Exactly. But here's the only difference, though, is that Fleury loves Vegas. I don't think people realize that Fleury absolutely loves Vegas. He wants to retire here. He said it himself. And the way he went about it was talking with his agent, told him to bring it down and all of that. And that's where, it really does truly show the leadership. And by the way, Fleury got a chance to start against Chicago and he got a win off of that. So I lean toward what Pete DeBoer said is that he doesn't have a starter, a backup, or a third stringer. He's got 2 legitimate starters. It's like a pitching rotation. Okay. When look at what happened with I hate to bring this up, but look at the Astros, how they leaned on Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander. I'm seeing the same thing with Vegas, how they're leaning on Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah.
Two legitimate starters behind the net, and they'll give you exactly what they need. That's kind of a concern for me is how they're going to play that out. But I don't think Vegas is going to brush away not starting Fleury. I think they're going to give him a chance to get into the net because think about it. He's already going to be a Hall of Famer anyway. We all know that. But the fact to getting some starts in, at least getting involved, but they're going to lean a lot more up on Robin Lehner. And the other concern to me is that the puck distribution. That is one that's a little bit of a concern because if the puck, if the offensive generating passing is not sound, that sometimes can be concerning. Now,
can I throw one in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Lately, from what I've seen from the Knights, just from watching, from the small sample sizes from the small sample size of footage that I've seen, in the last handful of games, the neutral zone has kind of been an issue.
Yeah, it really has. It really, really has. I mean, you even seen like how many times that, trying to generate passes through the neutral zone and how they've really been trying to like desperately get into the offense. But it's like every time the puck's getting squeezed out,
it stalls at center ice.
It stalls. Every time it stalls at center ice. And then there's sometimes the scare of miscommunication on neutral ice.
That's happened a couple. That's happened a couple of times. I've seen Fleury get hung out to dry a few times where it's like, oh no.
Yeah, that's a big concern. But I believe that the strengths for this Vegas team, the physicality play. You saw how much physicality Vegas played against Vancouver, and Vancouver was not prepared for that.
No,
because they play
they were not ready for your wingers to be hitting people. They were not ready for that.
Exactly. I mean, think about it this way: when you watch, when you watch like the Conor McGregor and the Donald Cerrone fight, Donald Cerrone was not prepared for when McGregor will throw shoulder at you.
Yeah,
it's the same that you look at with Vegas with their wingers just coming and forechecking you all the way around, like on the boards. And that is something that Vegas has used to their advantages, not only just to produce puck generating capabilities, but also too, it fires up and heats up the offense to now getting aggressive before getting to the net and trying to score. And we've seen a couple of those breakouts, like the one that happened with Alex Tuck. Fact that he was wide open, ready to take the shot, and it hits the net. And then you have the breakaway on the 2-on-1. They had a bunch of opportunities like that. And I think that is what's really used. That's really what's helped them to their advantage. The other strength is the defensive ends staying with Lehner and protecting the pucks at all costs. Martinez has produced that. I think I'm seeing a couple of real good defensive plays by Nick Holden, surprisingly. Holden's been playing real good and holding on his end, but I want to see more of that from Brady McNabb. I want to see a little bit more of that. Now, I know for a fact I know what I'm getting with Nate Schmidt because he's both offense and defense. Yeah. So sometimes he'll play it, sometimes he won't. Sometimes he'll try to, shake things up on the offensive ends. But if I get Brady McNabb to be like that, and I got three real good defenders who protect Lehner or Fleury at all costs, that's a huge strength. And you already know I'm getting that with Alec Martinez. And so that's been a real good strength for Vegas in this series.
Now, so what do you got for like concerns?
So, yeah, I listed the concerns for Vegas.
Oh, you did. All right. Okay, cool. All right. Oh, no, that's right. You did. You said them before. Okay. All right.
But my thing with Vancouver and what they really need to do is that they were not prepared for the physicality play, and we all saw it. Only three players really matched up well: Virtanen, Pettersson, and Rousel. But
you know what? Sorry to interrupt you, but do you know what the Canucks do real well? And I think it's kind of going to play into Vegas's favor is they crash the net. The Canucks crash the net. Like when there's a rebound, you see how fast they They crashed the net, and that's the defense for the Knights is gonna have to be on point for that.
Yeah, they're not going to leave their goaltender's side the second that they go and break away and they get aggressive at the net like that. That's why I mentioned I saw that a lot with Jake Virtanen in that game because the fact of he was ready to grip it and rip it. But the guys that have been quiet through the offensive zones were a little bit of Brock Besser. I think he was still trying to generate his offense, but JT Miller, JT Miller was really kind of trying to generate passes, but he was not aggressive on the offensive ends. And that's something that needed to change. Tyler Mott, everybody was leaning so much on Tyler Mott. He was quiet in the game.
Yeah.
And they did not expect anything out of their offense. So I think what they really truly need to do to get this right is they need to acclimate to the vibe that's being put on the ice. And that's
there's going to be a lot of hitting. There's going to be a lot of hitting.
And Razel, he's already got it straight with Reeves, and everybody wanted to come in and get a little piece of Razel.
Yeah,
but that's where I think that starts at first. The fact that you get him to really open up to start building the energy, building the fire for Vancouver, in order for them to get aggressive and, as you mentioned, crashing at the net. Yeah, that's where I think that needs to set their momentum straight. But the other thing is too. They need to keep
I think you guys are gonna. I think your defense has got to set the pace. They got to when Vancouver crashes, you guys got to bury them in front of the net. If you start hitting hard in front of the net, they're gonna think twice about going after those rebounds.
I agree. I can't agree more with that. Absolutely. And here's the other thing too. I don't know if you've seen it, but Vancouver played a lot of stick defense.
Yep.
They played an awful lot of stick defense. And I think that is something that they need to continue to do, but at the same time, body up on some of those shots.
Yeah.
And so that's
So
SMIG. Yeah, you missed it earlier. I've already been to 13 Knights games and I have one playoff win. That was game one of the first time they made the playoffs against the LA Kings. I seriously thought there was going to be a fight in that night. That was awesome.
Sin City, I've said it a couple of times. I want to play Vegas in the finals. I want the Bruins to play Vegas in the finals. That's what I want.
You want to set a bet line for that one, my friend, if they do make it into the final?
If it's a Vegas Bruins final, you want to put a little something on it there, Sparky?
I would love to. Hey, listen, Darian's going to hold me accountable for this one. He's going to be the only one. He's my witness. He'll be the one that's going to hold me on.
So when I win and I need somebody to go bust your knee for you to give me my money, I'll hit my boy Darian up.
See, there you go. And he's already working to try to get into Vegas soon.
So who you got? Vegas and the next. Who Vegas? I got
Vegas in I got Vegas in 6.
Vegas
I
in
truly
6.
got Vegas in 6 because the fact that they come in with all this energy, they're playing aggressive, physical hockey, and they're using that a lot to their advantage. And not to mention too, defense as you said, needs to body up, and they need to stay strong at all costs, and especially against an offense that can crash into the net at any point in time. But I just think Vancouver, the problems with them is that they were not prepared for that physicality game, for one. The other thing is Jacob Markstrom needs at least some sort of rest. I know they've been leaning on him a ton, and that's where you're kind of seeing a little bit of that wear and tear, especially in game one. And the fact that they brought in Demko afterwards after that 5th goal, that was not a good look. That was not a good look for Jacob Markstrom, and I think that's where they're going to struggle the most. If they don't get acclimated to this quickly, they may get 2 games, but they're not going to be able to build enough momentum to really take the series.
So last question for the Vegas and Canucks. You said Vegas in 6. I would agree with you there. I would say Vegas in 5. I think you guys are just gonna. I think the Nucks just don't match up well with you guys. I think they may get 1. Vegas is a good team. I underestimated them on their first time and their first run, and it cost me a lot of money. They're good, dude. They play fundamentally smart hockey, and they very rarely make stupid mistakes. Like the fundamentally sound hockey in the playoffs is what it'll at least get you to the finals. You know, if you play sound hockey and you don't make a lot of dumb mistakes, and you can score, and the Knights they got three people that at any given time on the ice, if you put a puck in there on their stick, they have a shot. So it's like,
it's true.
I'm gonna say the Knights in 5. I'll say Knights in 5.
Yeah, I agree. And this is one thing that I wanted to point out, because since SMIG is in here as a Sharks fan, listen, Pete DeBoer is not a bad coach. This is what I've also told Vegas fans. Just because he was on a rival team like San Jose does not mean he is a terrible coach. Yeah. This is a man who made it to the Stanley Cup twice. Unfortunately, lost both those Stanley Cup finals. But what's to say he doesn't lead Vegas to the promised land to make it into the final? And let's say 3 times the charm, he actually wins it. Could you imagine how big of a resume that will be for DeBoer?
Yeah, 3 appearances and 1 cup.
Yeah, and finally 1 cup. Like, I think of him as like the Andy Reid of hockey, to be honest. Yeah. He just didn't have the group. Now he does. Now that he has a strong, legitimate group, he could do whatever he wants to on this team, and they're still going to push left and right to make it into the one ultimate goal, and that is hoisting Sir Stanley. So
let's move on to the next series in the West, Jake.
Yep.
This one's going to be entertaining because both of these teams, like obviously nobody wants to go home, you know. But the Avalanche and the Star, like, dude, this is going to be a rock fight. You know what I mean?
Oh, by far.
Like, this is going to be a rock fight between these two teams because neither one of these teams wants to get outed. And honestly, with the way Colorado's playing, they're going to be a tough out, dude. The Avalanche, if they get past the Stars and let's say the Knights have to play them, they're a tough out, dude.
Yeah, they're an absolute tough out. You're absolutely right about that. And this is the thing about both these teams is that what Colorado leans on the most is they lean on that first line, and that's McKinnon, Landeskog, and Mikko Rantanen. And then there are some other guys that have even stepped up too. Don't sleep on Nazem Kadri. I mean, the guy's been red hot during the postseason, and he's been scoring goals left and right.
I was just going to say that Kadri has been like white hot, white hot since the start of the play. He's been like ridiculous ever since the playoffs started.
Yeah, and that's what the Avalanche have been leaning on is Kadri's been staying red hot, and he's really just been maintaining the 1-2 punches of those lines. And I'll even say too, the third line is kind of decent for them, and that's where for Dallas they have to shut down those first 3 lines because that's really ultimately all that they lean on. They lean the most on the first to really get something going because McKinnon and his stick skills is the only reason why the Colorado has the energy that they do. Yeah. Once he scores that goal, everybody's now going to come at you. That's just how Colorado runs. But
if the Stars can weather the storm, though, and they can stretch the series into 5, 6, 7 games, then I think the momentum shifts to them. The longer the series goes, I think the momentum goes. That at least me, because I don't know if the Avalanche are going to be able to keep up or keep how long can you lean on that first line for a hot streak only lasts for so long, and what happens if that first line goes cold for the Avalanche?
Now, if that first line does go cold for Colorado, I mean, that's going to mean bad news. But then that also means that, as I mentioned, Kadri now has to rebound them in order to, get the juice built back up. But here's the other thing, though, too, is that defensively for Colorado, because you look at Sam Girard and you look at because they no longer have Tyson Barrie in the middle of the mix this time. And this is what's interesting and what's different about Colorado with their defense, because I do believe there is a hole at their defense that Dallas really needs to take advantage of, especially Seguin or Ben or Radulov. And we've been seeing a lot of Radulov getting involved. But I'll agree. And I even put this point out. I think this series is going to go all the way to 7.
Me too.
The back and forth battle between the two. And I think it really is going to display who's got the better defense. Who's got the better defense amongst all that? Because you do have lines of scorers, and they know how to score at the net. But the real question is, who's really got the best line of defense?
Yeah.
Because then that's what leans up of – because when you have a better defense, that gives you momentum for your goaltender. And that's where they've leaned on Ben Bishop the most with that. Because Bishop's been – like he's had ice in his veins – all throughout, the playoffs and even before starting the playoffs up. And Francouz, like, I haven't seen so much of his game, but he's very impressive. He's very, very impressive. I know there are times of Philip Grubauer that is kind of off and on, just depending on, the day of the start.
He's very streaky.
Yeah, he's very streaky. But Francouz, if they lean on him the most with goaltending, then – That's where it's going to go all the way in the distance. So I'm going to have this game at 7, but I'm going to have to award this to Dallas.
See, this is where I'm kind of torn, because if the Stars can stretch this to 6 or 7 games, I think they win that. I think they win that 6th or 7th game. But if Colorado comes out and that first line and that second line is just too much for Dallas to handle, and they get it. Dallas has to score first.
Yes.
In these games, the Stars have got to score first in these games, because if the Avalanche get any type of momentum rolling, just like the name, it's just going to feed into, it's just going to feed it. Like, Dallas has got to score first in these games.
Oh, it's true, and that is the big time momentum shifter right there.
If the series goes less than 5, I give it. If it's a 5 or games or less, I give it to. Or if it's 6, if it's a 4 game, if it's 4 games, then I'm gonna give it to the Avalanche. Like, the longer this goes, the Stars have the advantage. So. I do think Dallas can do it, though. I'm gonna go Dallas in 7.
I like it. I like that thought. I mean, like I said, it's a back and forth battle between the two, and that's where offense striking first is the most important. That's your energy booster. The second you strike first, you feel good about it. You feel good about the game. But that's also too where I look at minutes at periods 2nd and 3rd, and that's where they have to keep the momentum on their side. The second you let one slip away, the table changes, and now the other team's got the hot hand.
Because let's be honest, let's be honest, how challenged were the Avalanche in their first series?
Oh, they were not as much.
They were pushed. They were pushed for a couple of periods, but for most of that series. They were in complete control. You know what I mean?
They were pushed, but here's the thing, though. You look at a team like Arizona, regardless if you got Phil Kessel or Clayton Keller or Taylor Hall, they still didn't have the capabilities of really truly being a playoff threat team.
Yeah.
They really didn't. And that's where, you mentioned it, they were pushed around, in some aspects of the game. But the second that they were locked in and scoring 7 goals, you knew for the fact that offense was just going to come in red hot.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. That they were. I don't know how challenged they were. I think Dallas offers them the first like the Avalanche are going to punch, and I think the Stars They're not just going to roll over and die.
Right.
Like the Stars are going to come back and punch back. You know what I mean? So that's what I want to see how the Avalanche respond to getting punched in the mouth a couple of times and see how it works out, because I think Dallas is set up better to handle that.
I agree with their depth, to be honest, and how they really play. They're so strategic. I don't even think that you realize that. Like, they're very strategic on both ends of the ice, offensive and defensively, that the second they spot it, they're gonna communicate to each other and say, set up here, line up here. That's how they're gonna come at you.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to shut down that first line with McKinnon and the company.
I just think Dallas is set up better to deal with adversity, because if the Stars, if they can get a hold of and kind of squash some of that momentum that first line has, I don't know how much faith I have in the rest of the Avalanche team to be able to pick that you know what I mean, to be able to pick up the pieces, because that first line is everything to them.
Yeah.
Everything.
Oh, yeah. This is true. This is true. It's much like probably how you say it with Boston. You know, that first line's everything with Boston. It
is. If the first line isn't locked in, they struggle. They struggle.
The totem pole falls. You know, that's the way that it looks. But
so let's move on, Jake, and we'll go over to the Eastern Conference now, and we'll do the Bruins and the Lightning. So I want your thoughts on this series first.
So my thoughts on the series of this is that two things. Both these teams are coming in with chips on their shoulders, because Boston,
the revenge tour, baby.
Yep, the revenge tour on both these teams. But also, too, I mean, Boston's got something they got to handle. The fact that, as I mentioned before in the show, that 9 players were not set to play. Pastrnak had an injury. Tuukka Rask now opts out, and which, again, is reasonable. I'm not holding that against him, but
that's huge. Like,
it's
you don't
huge.
have his talent as much of like a pain in the ass he can be sometimes.
Yeah.
People forget his save percentage is like .93.
And by the way, Robin Leonard learned from Tuukka Rask that the second that your blade of your skate comes off your foot, you don't just pick it up, freak out, and throw it. You know, like, because who knows? That could probably, injure somebody or hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's frustrating, but at the same time, you just have to maintain and just continue at your game. But that is huge, because honestly, outside of goalie tandems like Fleury and Leonard, Rask and Halleck is definitely the second best.
Yeah.
To be honest. And now losing Rask, for the rest of this series, like, that's not good.
Dude, that's huge. Huge.
And that's where Boston's really riding that chip on their shoulder. And so it's, and kind of the same for Tampa Bay. Tampa is riding off the embarrassing expectation from last year that they get swept and upset by Columbus. And that's where they're like, enough is enough. We need to get into the final. And so they come in and they grab in some speed by the trade deadline. Now this team is truly locked in to start scoring goals. I told people I knew this was a comebacker against Columbus. They needed to make that statement that you may have embarrassed us last year, but we're coming back at you with full force. And they did just that. So both these teams...
the Lightning, since the playoff have started, have been on a freaking mission.
Oh, yeah, they've been on a mission. This is why that I said never count them out. And a lot of people are like, what? Like, what do you mean?
They have absolutely been on a freaking mission.
And I'm a witness to this because of the fact that when they played that 6-game home stretch for the Knights, the second I see Tampa Bay coming in, the only guy who scared the hell out of me was Blake Coleman because of just his speed, the way he attacks the net. Is the reason that, as you mentioned in Vancouver, they need a body up at all costs. That's the same thing that needs to happen with Boston.
Yeah.
If they get breakaways like that, because Blake Coleman's fast, Braden Point is fast, and the other thing of it is
Point might be one of the best players in the league right now.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
He's stupid good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, he's elevated a lot more than I'll argue and say Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that Mitch Marner got this top dollar money, he didn't truly live up to the expectation for the playoffs.
No.
But Braden Point certainly is. And here's the other guy. Here's the guy you got to give credit to, Nikita Kucherov. The fact that he's not really scoring an awful lot of goals, but he is still maintaining the assist factor. I mean,
I was just going to say, he might not be scoring, but, dude, he had like 4 incredible passes in game 1.
And that's the adversity, because the fact that, listen, I don't truly have to score as much, but I do, however, need to open the ice up for our offense to score, whether I got Braden
for
Point,
other people.
Yeah, if I got Braden Point, or I've got Steven Stamkos, or even Blake Coleman, or a lot of other guys on the third and fourth line.
You know who I think is going to give us trouble? Hedman.
Oh yes, Victor Hedman. Oh yeah,
he scored twice in that game.
Yep, and for a defenseman, a guy that who generates puck passes, this guy's on fire when it comes to
big, fast, physical, and he's a freaking sniper.
Oh yeah, he is a dangerous defenseman for sure. Like, I look at it this way, like, he reminds me a little of Erik Karlsson in Ottawa. The fact that he, despite the big body and everything else, but a sniper when you've got an opportunity. Karlsson honestly did the same thing in Ottawa.
Yeah,
the fact that he was very precise, he'll find his spot and snipe it right through to the net and score those important clutch goals.
And you know what's funny about how he shoots, right? Is it's not like sometimes it's not the prettiest. It's not the prettiest shot, but they work.
Yeah, it's not the prettiest shot, but they work, and that's been Tampa's momentum. But if I look at this series, it is going to be a mixture of defenses are going to be tested on both ends, because Vasilevsky, as I've said, anytime when it comes to defense,
he's so good.
Yeah, he's good, but this is where he really has to stay on that momentum train. If that's how Tampa Bay is really willing to be in the final. And again, I said this all the time. I feel like Tampa's got a chance to make it to the final. And my sleeper was Philadelphia, if anything happens. But it's not to say I ain't counting out Boston, because I have to truly see if they can overcome those adversities and close up those holes that they have.
Yeah,
maybe they might have a shot.
Because here's the thing, right? Boston has got to get production out of that second line.
Fact.
Because the third and fourth line have played really well.
Yeah.
Ever since the playoffs have started, Bjork and Coyle and Nordstrom, that like those guys on those third and fourth lines have played really well. Like they've exceeded expectations. The first 2 lines we have got to get something out. Like they have got to crank it up the way they used to.
It's true. Yeah, if that second line is not rebounding themselves, after the first line, that's going to be huge trouble for them, and especially for the Bruins' momentum, because I loved how Charlie Coyle, seriously, the second he got traded to Boston, he's been a completely different player. He's been the type of player that, like, he's a role player, and I think at the same time, he's really done his job well. Yeah. Anytime that he's out there on the ice.
He's there to facilitate, and he does it really good.
Yeah, really good. And that's where he's the Jenga block that balances whenever, stuff goes wrong when it comes to, like, as you mentioned, the second line not getting on the same page. The second that they get there to the third and fourth, that's the stabilizer in order for them to reload with Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak to now come out with offense.
And Coyle, I like Coyle a lot because, I mean, he can play wing and center. Mm-hmm. They can switch him. Yep. Granted, one of them he's not the great. He's more of a wing guy because he's not supposed to play center, but he can.
Correct.
When they're pinched if somebody's hurt. Right. But he's more, I like him better on the wing. I think that's where he belongs.
I like him on the wing as well.
Yeah.
I think that's truly like that's his brutal force is when he's playing up on the wing. And it's funny because I think of him. I think of like wingers like Alex Tuck that
Yeah.
I know that like have that generated skate ability to where they come in and they're charging up at you. Like Coyle will do the same exact thing if you give him an open hole for him to generate offense through and get the puck through the net.
Yeah. He'll shoot when he has the opportunity, but more than likely he'd rather throw it in front of the net to Bergie or Marsh or send it over to Pasternak and let him take the shot. But if he sees a gap and he thinks he can shoot, he's got a pretty good shot for what for the player he is.
Oh yeah, no, it's true.
Boston just has a lot of guys that they're just grinders, like they're not afraid to they're just a grit, and the Lightning are the same way. It's just a grit. They're just both just gritty teams. They're not afraid to, you know how many hits they had yesterday between the two of them?
Oh God, they had an awful lot of hits.
67.
Good Lord.
67 hits in one game.
You've got it's funny. Most of these guys, I don't know how they do it. Maybe it's just, an incredible amount of stamina, but I don't know how you could even deal with that. Just kidding. Forechecked on the boards with that many hits and yet still having enough conserved energy to just continue on in those games. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I saw that stat and I was like, yeah, it's going to be one of those series. 67 hits in game one.
Yeah. I think, honestly, since you mentioned about those hits, I think the length of this game, and this is where I'll point this out. I said this too. I think it's going to go to 7. I truly think it's going to go to 7 because of how gritty both these teams are, that they're fighting for the chance to getting into the Eastern Conference Final. Like they're both on a mission for it. Tampa's more on the mission for it, and I'm leaning towards Tampa in 7 because of the fact they have something to prove, and they're riding through that. The last thing that they want to do is they want to get cold. They want to leave a hole open for Boston, take advantage of, and upset them, and not make it through into the Eastern Conference. Like that will literally set a tone and will tell people what's going to be next for Tampa now. What do they need? What are they doing?
If Boston
wrong
goes up
not
2-0
it in the final,
and if Boston wins game 2. If Tampa can't go down 2-0 in this series, they can't.
No, they cannot. Mm-mm.
They have got to. They have And by the way, guys, if you're not subscribed to my man Jake, I just dropped his link in the chat, and his content's phenomenal. So you guys should go over there and check it out.
Appreciate all the love and support, you guys, and also do appreciate all the comments here up on the show.
If Tampa loses. If they go down 2-0, that's not good. I mean, I don't want to say it's a must-win in game 2, but they need to even this series up.
But clearly their backs will be against the wall again. And I'll be honest, Vasilevsky is a good goaltender, but I've seen this too multiple times. When they play with games again, games with the game is on the line and their backs are against the wall, he doesn't play good.
He'll cave. He'll cave.
Yeah, he'll cave.
He does. He's done it before.
We've seen him do that last year against Columbus, and we've seen him do that the year before against Washington. And the fact that Washington took advantage of that.
And the Bruins took advantage of it a little bit too. I think they're starting to get a handle on how to shoot on Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
They pull him out. You know what I mean? They bait him out
of it. Yep.
They bait him out, and then they go high. Either high stick or high glove. They bait him out of the net. You know?
You got to go bar down. That's honestly, you got to go bar down against a guy like Vasilevsky. You pull him out, you give extra spacing, deke him at any point that you can, but shoot high. Shoot high, get a bar
That's what I mean. Every shot that you saw from the Bruins that they scored, the puck was elevated.
Yeah, it was rising.
I think they're finally starting to get a handle on how to shoot on Vasilevsky because they just from last year, every puck that they scored on, the puck was in the air and high.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I agree. I just seriously think that when it comes to Tampa Bay and going in 7 games, you need to score that first goal.
Yeah.
You got to continue to score that first goal and bring that energy and that vibe to the team, because that's what's really going to help your lines 1 through 3. 4 is kind of questionable, but those are the only ones that I will lean on is 1 through 3 because that's where you got to have guys like Blake Coleman and Braden Point in the middle of those lines.
Yeah,
where they're keeping that momentum going. Yeah, that's where they really have to lean on.
Yeah, we already know the first 2 lines that Tampa has are gonna play well. It's the back end of that that's gotta. This is going to be the closest series. It is.
I agree. I agree.
Like, I think the Stars are going to take the Avalanche, and I think Vegas is going to handle. I think Vegas is going to handle business.
So that'll leave us to our last series of this Final Four right here,
and this is going to be a good one too. This is going to be an exciting one. The 2 series in the East are going to be really good
by far.
Because the Isles and the Flyers. They're clones of each other. They're the same team.
I agree.
They're the same exact team.
You couldn't have said this any better. And here's what's funny about this, Bobby, is the Islanders, they really didn't care if John Tavares left, to be honest. Go ahead. Take your money.
They let him. They let him. And then you bring in a veteran coach, fresh off of a Stanley Cup win in Barry Trotz. He turned this organization around because it helped elevate guys like Anders Lee. I think he's brought the absolute best out of Matthew Barzal, to be honest, because he's playing with generated speed, but he's precise. He is a precise passer. That is what is been the arsenal for the Islanders, especially when it comes to scoring. They're not a team that, like Tampa, is built for speed. They're built for precise shots. That's why you see guys like Barzal, Anders Lee, Jordan Eberle, and even Bo Olivier. Like, you know what it is though, right? It's for each of these teams, at least for me, it's puck movement. They move the puck and they find they move the puck and they get guys. It's misdirection. It's misdirection for both teams, and it's the speed at which they do it. The puck comes across the ice like that, and there's a one-timer, from the slot or from the top of the circle that's just left wide open.
Yeah, and there is no it's got to be fast or slow pace. No, it has to be at the right pace at the right time, and that's where the Islanders and even the Flyers have really worked themselves to really generating that. So that's where I think this is going to be the precision game between the both of them, and because they both display really good amounts of defense. I'll be honest, Islanders are building themselves off of last year where they had Robin Lehner and they had Thomas Greiss as well, where they've really played smart, efficient goaltending. But now having Semyon Varlamov in the middle of this mix, this is one that I truly think was really good. It may not have been to it hasn't been to the exact highest level, but it still is maintainable where he's playing real good goaltending. And defenders like Brock Nelson and so many of them have elevated because of that. And the defense, that's why I look at this team and look at how defensive that they play. Barry Trotz, I think how he sets this up is that he sets it to be defense first, then precise offense.
Well, let's play defense and we'll put the puck into the neutral zone and we'll work from there. We'll work from the neutral zone in.
Yeah, because they have capable shooters, but it's not like it has to be like in baseball, the absolute home run ball when it comes to scoring and generating offense first. They have guys that generate offense. But it's only to the matters of you need to protect the puck. You need to keep it. You need to keep the momentum on our side at all costs. And when we get those opportunities, those precise, right-paced times to shoot a goal, they are on it. Honestly,
grip it and rip it, right?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, J.G. Padjo has really been the Jenga block for this team. Yeah. I've said this, the second that they go and get him, the Islanders are going to be a different team. Yeah. That is a guy that they lean on, that he scores, he generates passes, but he is an absolute role player wherever you need him to be at. And that's why I think Ottawa, unfortunately, let go of a real good player, but JG Padjo's really shining in this, in this postseason.
Yeah. It's funny, like one addition, one piece can change can change an entire. You put the right veteran, in the right spot, and it does wonders, man.
Yeah, it does. It really, really, truly does. If I look at Philadelphia's offense, like, finally, I have to say, when it comes to some of these offensive guys like Sean Couturier, Claude Giroux. Now, Claude Giroux, he's had moments, but he really seriously needs to step up a little bit more.
I was going to say, hasn't he like massively underachieved though?
Yeah, he's massively underachieved. Like, he's not the same Giroux that I would have remembered like 2 seasons ago.
No.
And that is where I think
he's not really like 2017, 2016, 2017 Giroux. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's where he really truly needs to step up, especially a team that's very precise in every part of the ice. And so, but leaning on guys like Sean Couturier, Jacob Voracek, and I think who was the other? God, now I forget his name but he's on the offensive end for Philadelphia. He's been red hot also, and they've been leaning toward guys on the first 2 lines. The third and fourth, they're more like specialists.
Yeah,
in my opinion, they are more like specialists. They either do play offense or they'll play more defense, and then they got to rally it back up on the first and 2 lines. And that's something that on the defensive ends, like, that's why I mentioned, I'm actually surprised and still glad that they didn't get rid of Shane Goatsberry.
Yeah.
Because, that would have been bad news if they ended up giving him up. And like I said, if he went to Vegas, it would have never been the same team for Philadelphia.
Now, I'm going to say this, and I think this is Philly plays better through the neutral zone. I think they're faster. I think they clear pucks. They clear pucks out from in front of the net better, and I think they are faster through the neutral zone in transition. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the Isles can handle that. So I'm going to go with the Flyers in this. I'm going to go with the Flyers in 6.
I'm going to go the distance at 7, and I am going to go with the Flyers. But I'm only saying this because I think that they are my sleeper team.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I will not be surprised
if the Islanders end up beating them.
Yeah. If the Islanders pull off some sort of trick up their sleeve and they find some way to beat Philadelphia, because, again, they're so evenly matched. But the fact that, Philadelphia has one quality they do well in the neutral zone, that's going to really make a huge difference in a series like this.
They play really well through the neutral zone. They get pucks up and through and into the into the high slot. Like, it's quick, dude. It's 1 or 2 passes and they're up through the neutral zone and they're lining up a shot. It's true. It's true. It's fast.
It's a fast-paced game for them.
Yeah, and if you like, they're dangerous through the neutral zone. Two passes and they're up and through, and they're on their fast break. They've played really well through the neutral zone.
And what's funny about this is that Carter Hart is playing like he's definitely got something to prove. He's playing like he's got something to prove here in this league, that he is capable enough to acclimate to the speeds of opposing offenses and is really trying to stay strong. Like, think about it. We saw the same thing with Jordan Binnington last year. Mm-hmm. The fact that he comes into the scene, but at the same time, he had a real good mentor in Jake Allen. I'll admit it. He had a really good mentor in the goaltender position. But with Carter Hart, now I don't know who the backups are for Philadelphia, because it's like they had X amount of backups last year, and like, geez, and crow. But the fact that he's leaning toward that he's got something to prove in this league, I think if he seals the deal in Game 7, I think that should now just say Jordan Binnington and Carter Hart are the guys.
Yeah, they're the new gen.
They're the new generation. So that's what I like about this series. Evenly
All right.
matched.
So,
Definitely got
Jake,
some momentum there.
Conference finals and the final. We'll get into it real quick.
Okay.
Conference finals and the finals. Who are the final four and who's playing for the cup?
I'm going with Vegas against Colorado in the Western Conference Final because I think that what's interesting is that these two teams have something to prove to each other.
They do.
I saw the storyline this year. Like the
Vegas,
matchups, those games.
Vegas wants it bad.
Vegas wants it seriously bad. And so for me, I think that game is going to go the distance at 7. To be honest. Oh, yeah, my bad. It's going to go the distance in 7, and it's going to be Vegas. And I think Vegas is dying to get back into the final, and they want to win it all. They got something to prove. They didn't make all these moves for nothing.
Yeah.
The fact that they upgraded on all 3 components, offense, defense, and goaltending, that says a lot to the league. And so I have it at 7 with Vegas going into the Western, into the Stanley Cup final for the Western Conference. In the East, I look at Tampa against Philadelphia. That one's going in 7, and I'm leaning towards Tampa. I'm leaning towards Tampa because of the speed game and because, again, they are still riding that chip on their shoulder. And I think they'll finally make it through. The curse itself would be broken, and they'll make it into the final. Now, when I look at the Stanley Cup final, my friend, all 7 games, and I would love to see that cup shining in Vegas. Right down Las Vegas Boulevard, saying, welcome to fabulous Las Vegas.
I'll tell you this.
There with their neon lights. Like, I would want to be there in that party, baby. Like, man.
If Vegas does win the cup, that is going to be one hell of a party.
Oh, my God.
The city might not go to sleep for like 3 whole days.
No, hell no. No, not even the NHL is going to be ready for a party like that in Vegas. But I'll be honest, real quick. Like, how I see the party starting is like this. Like John Wick mode all the way down Las Vegas Boulevard. And then you're going to hit up some old school classics, a little bit of Frankie, a little bit of some Elvis. Like, come on now, because we're kind of a classy city like that.
It's going to be a party. It's definitely going to be a party. I'm going to go. The Bruins showed me something because going into the Tampa series, I thought the speed was going to be a serious problem. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a serious issue, like a big problem. Like I thought Tampa was gonna be a real problem, and it did show a little bit at the end there. The last 3-4 minutes of that game, the Bruins did look a little tired, but for 95% of that game, 98% of that game, they showed me that they could skate with them. The speed was that, like, they could actually stay with them.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'm going to give Bruins are just the core. The core guys, they've been there, they've done that. They know how to handle the pressure, they know how to play together. And I think those core guys, I think Bergeron, Chara, Krejci, I think Marchand, those 4 dudes, they know that this window is closing. They know They know this is their shot.
Yeah, the time is now. The time is now.
In order for them to come off the ice, they're gonna have to be dead. Like,
yep.
This is their shot, and I think they know it, and I think that's why they're playing the way they're playing. I'm gonna go the Bruins take the Lightning out in 7, but it takes 7 games.
Okay.
Take them out in 7, and it's going to be in overtime.
I like that.
Because I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go that far. Because I think it is going to go that far. I think the Bruins take them out in overtime in Game 7.
I agree.
And then they face the Flyers, because I think the Flyers have the better neutral zone play, and the transition play for Philly is just it's really good.
All right.
But I think they're going to run into a buzzsaw in Boston's defense because I think the Islanders play good D, but I think the Boston defense is very good, and they're getting better, and it seems like they're getting their legs underneath them every game they play. So I'm going to go Vegas and Bruins for the Cup.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Jake, and I'm going to go Bruins in 6.
Wow, in 6. Oh my goodness. Wow.
But I will say this: Vegas fights every step of the way.
This is a fact.
I will say Vegas fights them. And I'm talking 3-2, 4-3, 2. Like I'm talking 1 goal separation, and it's gonna come down to the final 7-8 minutes of the third period. It's gonna be it's gonna go 6 or 7, but. And the physicality between, think about this: if the Vegas is more physical than Tampa, and the Bruins and Tampa just hit each other 67 times in one game.
This is true. They would be wore out after all those hits.
But you know what I mean? Like the Bruins, and I want to see some, like, give me some hockey fights, man. And the Bruins and Knights would go, dude. They would go at it because. The defense from Vegas doesn't back down from nobody. They'll drop the gloves with anybody, dude. I've seen it. I've seen them do it. They are not afraid. I want to see me some hockey fights in the final, and I want to, I am all for. I want all that smoke. Give me the Bruins and the Knights in the final.
Hey, I'd be happy to bring it to you. West Coast, East Coast clash, my friend. There.
But I think Vegas runs through the West, though. I really do. I don't think. Once they get through, this is going to be their biggest challenge in the Canucks. I think they'll handle business on either the Stars or the Canucks are their biggest challenge.
Yeah, and I mean
if they can get through them, I think they're going, dude. I really do. I think if they can get through the Canucks, I think they're going.
Yeah,
I think Vegas is going back.
I think the one thing is once they've acquired those 3 guys, they found their identity right away. And the fact that the Western Conference and who they played all throughout, before the pandemic hit, they played with the cry of anybody is beatable. Anybody is beatable. The second they come into our arena and they come into the ice, we're giving them the energy. We are giving them that type of fuel to fire for us to run through them. Run through the West, and that's where we know. Oh yeah.
Dono hype. Thanks, LeBron. Hey, aren't you playing tonight? Aren't you supposed to be on the court tonight, LeBron?
Uh-oh.
But I appreciate the dono. Much appreciated, man. Thanks for the $2 dono. But I'm telling you, Jake, and the Bruins, the toughest challenge until they get to Vegas, if they can get past the Lightning, then I think they'll be able to beat Philly or the Islanders, and I could realistically see a Vegas and Boston East Coast West Coast final. I just don't think that there's much of a challenge after the Canucks for Vegas. I think they're just better than what that's left. I think they're better than the Stars. I think they're better than I think they're better than the Canucks. I really do think they're better than the Canucks and
the Avalanche.
I think the Avalanche have 1 or 2 lines that could maybe stay with them, but I think you guys can push them around too. But I do, man. It's. I don't want to hold you up any longer. I know you got a schedule to keep, but I'm going to say Boston and Vegas for the Cup, and I'm going to go. You know what? I'm going to switch it. I'll go 7. I think Vegas goes the distance.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, because especially when it comes to the Stanley Cup, man, a lot is on the line. I mean, you would have to have
switch it. I'm gonna go Bruins in 7, but I will say this: getting past Vegas is not gonna be easy because they're gonna be very similar to the Lightning. They can shoot, they can score, and they hit, and they're not afraid to either.
Yeah, listen, I know you're probably going to come in with this battle cry of saying you're going to bear down Vegas pretty easily. But listen, when we night up and we've got our shield and sword, man, you better bring on that bear. You better bring him on. And listen, We've got we got a bear type of our own.
Right? If the Bruins and Vegas meet, I may have to start looking at some hotel prices out on the Strip just to see how. I may spend a long weekend out there, bro, just to watch, just to do it, for the atmosphere.
Hey, listen, the only drink that I drink is Stanley Cup size, man. So you better be filling those brewskis up, man. All right, it's got to be ice cold up in Vegas. I'll tell you that right now.
But it is the Stanley Cup. It's going to be phenomenal, man. It's the series. All of these series are going to be phenomenal. It's
everyone is getting seriously tested in the second round. That's why the first round was only the start. But it's going to get better and better. Once you get into the best part of the cake, like it gets better.
Yeah. And the play is only going to get better and better. And it's just as you know how it is, as you narrow it down, you separate who wants it the most.
Exactly. You separate who wants it the most, who's really who's really taking advantage of those adversities that come at them and are, because this is what separates the boys from the men. And this is exactly what you want in a playoff atmosphere. That's in any sport you play. That's why I love watching the Stanley Cup playoffs all the time now. Like, I can't get enough of it. But this is where I've said this now, where this is seriously the year for the Vegas Golden Knights. You're leaning on Boston on 7. I'm leaning on Vegas in 7, unfortunately, with Tampa Bay. It's going to be great.
It would not surprise me if they met. Like I said, I think Vegas is going for the West. I realistically do. If they get past the Canucks, they're going.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be going all the way. So,
but once again, though, guys, thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. LeBron, thanks for the super chat. Greatly, greatly appreciate that, brother. And for now, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us for some hockey talk. Can't talk there.
And for those who want to know exactly where you can find me up on my contents, you can find me on the Snake Sports Talk Show. I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, also on Spotify for all of my podcast episodes. And you can catch in on the show on YouTube every Saturday and Sunday from 7 a.m.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do the morning shows, right? Yeah.
Yep, I do the morning show, so you can get why not start a weekend in the morning with me here? I got great content and entertainment for all you guys, so definitely come in, tune in, subscribe, hit the bell button, and keep in touch with me.
So let me drop Jake's link in the chat again, guys. So this is his YouTube channel. Let me drop this link again for y'all. Hold on a sec. Put this link in the chat for you guys. So that's Jake's YouTube link. He's also on what? Instagram,
Twitter,
Facebook, and Twitter, right?
Yep. Also on Spotify as well for podcast episodes. Oh, yeah. I'm everywhere you can find me. Just look me up.
Hey, there you go, Water King. I'm telling you, man, you won't be disappointed. Jake's he's a knowledgeable dude. He knows his stuff. But once again, though, guys, thanks a lot. Greatly, greatly appreciated. I am going to go fire up the old PS4 and probably jump into some Call of Duty. And Jake, thanks for hanging out with me, brother. You the man.
Absolutely, man. Pleasure being here.
And this is going to be an interesting final.
Oh, this
interesting
is
road to the cup.
This is going to be fun-filled, my friend.
Greatly appreciate all of you guys, though. Thank you. We are chasing 2K down in a hurry, and that is awesome. You guys have been incredible. The support since sports have come back has been out of this world. It's been insane. But don't forget to go subscribe to my man, Jake, and we will catch you all later. But we out of here for now. Peace.
Peace.